Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naurto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto Naruto Next Generations discussion on the fallout from Boruto Chapter 74. And boy, do we have a major topic to discuss here that I'm sure each of you guys have asked yourselves, which is, did Amato just hint that Ada and Daemon might be Otsutsuki? That's a common question I've seen in the comment section following the release of this chapter, and I thought today's video was as good of a time as any in order to discuss it. Now, I know some of you guys might say, but wait, Naruto Explain, if they are Otsutsuki, why don't they have the snow white skin and the horns like the Otsutsuki? To which I'd say that's all irrelevant right now. Boruto and Kawaki are technically Otsutsuki, but they don't grow horns until they transform, just as Jigen didn't grow horns until Jigen transformed. Kawaki, even after losing the Karma Seal, was still an Otsutsuki, so the standard appearance doesn't apply here. In today's video, we're going to look at why some people think that they are Otsutsuki, what evidence there is to support this idea, what possible foreshadowing exists for this, and what the overall story impact for this could be if this were to pan out to be true, and for argument's sake, why this wouldn't be true, since, as you know, on this channel, I give all sides of the argument a voice here, even if I don't personally agree with it, in order to let you guys draw your own conclusions. However, with that all out of the way, why do so many people jump to the whole theory of Ada and Daemon being Otsutsuki? Why did they go from this is crazy to all of a sudden being on board with it? We know that Ada is somebody that can fly, and Amato casually mentioned that their ability to fly was something that the Otsutsuki are able to do naturally, in the same breath as when he referred to Ada taking flight like it's nothing. He then went on to say in that same breath that Boruto and Kawaki will be zipping around soon because they are genetically Otsutsuki. The fact that Ada taking flight was mentioned in the same breath as the Otsutsuki taking flight and using it as a comparison is what a lot of people rightfully focus on. Now, to play devil's advocate, just as every red-haired character in Naruto is an Uzumaki, the same thing here can be said about flight. Not every character who takes flight is going to be an Otsutsuki. Case in point, Onoiki and a few other characters can actually fly, but they're not Otsutsuki genetically. That being said, I do think there is something here, and longtime viewers of the channel know that I've been saying since last year, Ada and Daemon's powers were likely more than just ninja tech, but something that was going to be Otsutsuki related, in particular the two missing Otsutsuki themselves. Now, that's not saying Ada and Daemon are the two missing Otsutsuki. I think that's a little bit of a stretch that not even Masashi Kishimoto would have the balls to do, and the man, if we're being honest, has made his fair share of ass pulls when writing Naruto's manga. However, let's look at what we do know here. Amato gave those coordinates to Sasuke so he could discover the Ten Tails. While Sasuke was there, he saw all those Otsutsuki markers, including the two who were destroyed, and as of right now, the only person who could corroborate that information, should Amato reveal any of it, would be Sasuke. However, this is where Amato and all the links to Ada and Daemon are beginning to start raising red flags here. We were told that Jigen specifically saw the cyborgs who Amato created that were stronger than him as being a threat, but when we look at Code, we see someone who is clearly stronger than Jigen, but his abilities weren't anything special in terms of fighting against him. However, these cyborg siblings, Ada and Daemon, their powers feel like they're Otsutsuki based, whereas Code's powers don't feel like something you expect from an Otsutsuki, and they are the only ones of these cyborgs who are above Jigen who have dojutsu in particular. Code does not have a dojutsu. All dojutsu that exists in the Naruto world can be traced back to the Otsutsuki clan themselves, and the powers of Ada and Daemon, on top of their ability to fly as natural as Otsutsuki, it feels like way too much runs together, and it can't be a coincidence. The power to reflect all things, lethal and non-lethal attacks, as long as physical contact is made with someone in the area, is something that is broken as anything we'd expect from the Otsutsuki. The power to see into the past up to the moment of birth and see everything going on in the present timeline if the eye is cut on, picking and choosing which scenes to see, like switching the angles from a security camera system, is something that you would see in Otsutsuki level broken. For as brilliant as a scientist as Amato is, and he's absolutely brilliant, even he isn't thinking of dojutsu powers this broken, and when you look at their eyes, they both have moon pattern shaped eyes, with Ada having the crescent moon pattern and Daemon having the half moon pattern, and both of these siblings just happen to have the most busted powers we've seen in the series, which isn't by mistake here. When we really sit down and look at these two siblings, starting with Ada, Jigen from a hack standpoint when you really think about it, he had nothing to worry about from combat perspective. Think about it for a second. Yes, Jigen ordered all the cyborgs whose power in combat exceeded him to be destroyed at the facility that Ada and Daemon were held in. So by extension, you would say, hey, these are the cyborgs that Jigen wanted destroyed. However, her powers that she's shown so far, they aren't combat specific, but there's a reason why Jigen wanted her destroyed. The ability to control those who become her slaves to her Sharingan doesn't affect Jigen because Jigen is a vessel of an Otsutsuki. Her powers don't work on Otsutsuki. Ada being able to see all things in the present and the past up to her moment of birth, combat wise in a one-on-one setting, that doesn't work. However, it's more of an assist ability when you think about it. If Jigen shrank himself down, which is his go-to in a fight, in a battle against those cyborgs, she would be able to see him by cutting on her Sharingan because she could see his location, because Ada sees all things in the present. So by extension, she would see Jigen. However, Ada, by her own admittance, said her taijutsu skill level is only basic and she doesn't enjoy fighting. She views it as barbaric. That does not mean she cannot fight. It just means she's not the most skilled at fighting, but the power is there. Jigen, by extension, as we all saw in the anime version of Naruto and Sasuke versus Jigen, he isn't exactly a slouch at taijutsu, being able to more than hold his own with Naruto and Sasuke to the point where he's finessing Naruto's 1,000 shadow clones like it's nothing. Skill-wise, there was nothing to worry about in the fight because raw power doesn't mean as much if you don't have the skill to land the hit, even if you yourself are physically stronger and faster than the person you're fighting. Daemon, on the other hand, his reflection jutsu is simple enough to counter for someone like Jigen. You isolate him away from anyone else so he can't make physical contact, then you shrink yourself down so he can't touch you. But at the same point, Jigen would have to resize himself, and Daemon, like his sister, is faster and stronger, but unlike his sister, Daemon has the skill to get the most out of his raw physical power, something that Code, Boruto, and Kawaki quickly found out. However, in both of these cases, outside of their raw power, why would someone like Jigen specifically want them destroyed unless there was something else about them, which we know he took interest in at least Ada, because we know for a fact he spoke to Code about Ada in the past because Code knew exactly who she was. Otsutsuki move in pairs, and Daemon and Ada as a duo have not been separated for long in their package deal, much like how Otsutsuki are. Their eyes have similar moon-shaped patterns, and in the case of Ada, her powers don't work on Otsutsuki at all, but it's never specified as to why Otsutsuki specifically can't be affected, and the only thing that makes sense is if the power itself is derived from the Otsutsuki. There are timeline issues to address here, and that could lead into our answers. Jigen was laying in wait for a long time without making any major moves until the first few years after the 4th Great Ninja War, because that's when the activity for Kar began to start popping up. You can kind of trace the timeline when you look at Kawaki, assume that he's the same age or a couple years older than Boruto. Those activities would have started around the time that Sasuke left Konoha after speaking with Naruto, Sakura, and the 4 Kages about the threat to the Otsutsuki and his desire to go further investigate whatever it was that scared Kaguya. Boruto and Sarada during this period in time, they were still toddlers. Himawari was freshly born, and Kawaki, if we assume is 1 to 2 years older, would have been nearing the age where he was originally abducted, and by nearing I mean being 1 to 2 years away from happening. So Kawaki was 4 when Boruto and Sarada were 2 going on 3. Add on 2 more years from that, he'd be 6 going on 7 when Jigen meets him. But there are a plethora of children before him who were used as experiments. Shikamaru is likely going to ask, why do Ada's powers not work on Otsutsuki? And if Amato reveals that those powers came from Otsutsuki, Sasuke would be able to further confirm there were 2 more markers and the possibility of other Otsutsuki existing. We don't know what happened, but what we do know is that Ishiki was very careful with Jigen. Jigen's body couldn't fully use his chakra, and Ishiki made it a point to not have Jigen move aggressively until there was a suitable backup vessel for him to be revived into, i.e. Kawaki. Think about it for a second. If Jigen were to get into a battle and say someone was stronger to kill Jigen, Ishiki would be revived in Jigen's body, and Ishiki would then turn around and die because he hadn't prepared another vessel, and it's already hard enough finding someone who's compatible enough with the Karma Seal. We also know that the Otsutsuki clan had monitored Earth to a degree, since Urashiki said in the anime, the main branch was aware of what Tsuneri did to Boruto, and Kenshiki was aware of the disturbance in Kaguya's sector. Is it crazy to think that there were 2 more Otsutsuki being sent, but the 10 tails Ishiki had wasn't far enough along in its development in order to be fed and used as a chakra fruit. It's possible. Sasuke specifically referred to it as a juvenile 10 tails, basically calling it a baby. If we learn that Jigen was able to take down those missing Otsutsuki while doing those experiments with Amato trying to find a compatible vessel, the idea of Amato grabbing their eyes and implanting them into Ada and Daemon once they were kidnapped and experimented on, that's not exactly crazy because their powers are very Otsutsuki-like. At the very least, gaining inspiration to use those powers of the Otsutsuki as the idea behind Ada and Daemon's powers, it is something possible. Amato had to get the idea from somewhere. The fact that Ada continues to show as many traits as she does that are associated with the Otsutsuki, that's a red flag, and I don't think that that's by mistake either. I've talked in the past about 1, Ada and Daemon's powers being linked to the 2 missing Otsutsuki, and 2, I've gone a step further saying I don't think it's crazy that they might possess a karma and it's being held secret from Code, because if Code were to know, he'd try feeding one of them to the 10 tails and there'd be no need for Boruto and Kawaki. Now you might be saying, well, if they had karma or even if they had the genetics of the Otsutsuki, because the karma went away after the Otsutsuki revived into another body, i.e. how Kashi and Koji killed Jigen, Ishiki revived into Jigen, and Kawaki lost his karma, why didn't Jigen just feed them to the 10 tails if it was ready at the time? And I would say the answer to that is that they are physically stronger than him, which we know is the case, and one possessed powers that could assist the other in locating him when he shrank down, making Jigen's biggest trump card invalid. I think there's something here, something we haven't connected the dots to yet, and I think Amato's reveal in the future chapters is going to play a huge role in the mystery of all of this. However, if you think there's something I missed here, let me know down in the comment section. Hopefully we as a community can crack this before we get into the next manga chapter. While you think that over, click here for a detailed video on why I think Ada and Daemon might have karma or Otsutsuki genetics, or click here to watch my latest Chainsaw Man on KRYPTONIAN Saiyan.